Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Borknagar, Fall, out February 23rd on Century Media Records. The album has 8 tracks, 54 minutes in length, and this is the band's 12th full-length studio album. They are a Norwegian progressive black metal band. When it comes to the design of this record, there's 2 elements of this album that are really interesting. One is that they continue to build records that have a sense of sequence, that has a sense of belonging together. Every song adds to the collective. Really an album with a beginning, middle, and end. Very immersive experience that you feel you can only get the most out of the record if you sit down and you go down the line and listen to every single song as it was meant to be and as it was created. The other side of the structure of this record is that I find interesting is that they build a lot more ebbs and flows throughout this record. There's a sense of progression, then there's a valley. It cuts away from that and it takes you in a very different, it offers a different perspective. And then it builds you back up again and then it brings you back down again. And then builds you back up again, brings you back down again. It's an album that doesn't stay constant, that doesn't stay linear, that doesn't offer a sense of continuity from that standpoint. And that makes the album a lot more entertaining. It makes the experience a lot more entertaining. Regardless of what you're listening to, regardless if you're watching a movie, reading a book, listening to a song, listening to a record, you want to be entertained by the experience. You want to feel like there's something new and something fresh at every single turn. You don't want to feel like the album, the book, the movie is becoming monotonous or repetitive. This album allows you to feel different experiences while still being connected to the same root, to the same original path. That is important because it doesn't break the album, it gives it that sense of unity, but it still offers enough variety, enough diversity in how you feel and how you process and how you digest these songs that makes the overall experience a lot more pleasurable. It's a record that when you get to the end of it, even though you've been listening to it for 54 minutes, you're ready to press play and go back again to the start, because it almost feels like the journey, while it ended, it didn't really satisfy your appetite. There's more that you can get from it. And every time you listen to the record, you do discover something new. So there's also that adds to the overall playability. So great design, great structure that really enhances the record as a whole. As far as the sound is concerned, this album continues, or at least it progresses from where True North left off. And that's an important element. I really like bands that piggyback off of what the last record had and then build upon it. Don't completely detach themselves from it. Specifically bands like Borknagar. I think it's important to offer that sense of continuity if you're going to offer growth. You can't just offer growth in a vacuum. You have to offer that growth as a continuation of where you were before, so that the listener can grow with the artist as you go down the line, as you involve yourself and get more immersed into the record. This album, sound-wise, definitely did that for me. It also had a lot more of a black metal influence, both in the vocals and in the sound and even in the atmosphere that it creates. A lot less progressive. It still has a lot of progressive elements there, but they're more subtle throughout the entire album. They feel more like a texture. They feel more like an element, like a layer, something that adds quality to the songs, but are not necessarily in the forefront of how the songs are executed or created. The black metal side of the band definitely comes across more clear, more linear, more straightforward. When you mix these two worlds together, what you're creating is a sound that's a lot easier to digest. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the band from before or if you're discovering the band with this new album. Considering this sound, it's an easy album for anybody. It's a great record for the fans that have been down this path, that are growing and learning and evolving with the band. But for those that are discovering the record brand new and they've never heard the band before, this album is an easy way in order to then perhaps look back and discover some of the previous records. It's a great album from that perspective. I love a record that has a lot of texture, that has a lot of layers, that offers a lot of different sound nuances, that creates atmosphere without being atmospherically driven, that adds progressive elements without being progressively driven. It's an album that's intelligently created, and it's created in a way that feels simple, that sounds simple because it simplifies some of its mechanisms while still being very complex in how it's put together. An album like this works really well for me. I connect with it a lot easier. I'm able to feel the songs and I'm able to go a little bit deeper. This album allows you to also go a little bit deeper because of that sense of simplicity, and then when you go deeper, you discover the lyrical content and how that lyrical content ties in with the sound, experience, and atmosphere of the tracks. This is really important in order for you to see the full picture, in order for you to put all the right puzzle pieces together, so that everything becomes a lot more clear. Sorry for the redundancy here, but it becomes a lot more clear as you progress, as you navigate through this record. You start to see why things are coming together, why the sound is there, why this nuance is there, why this texture is there. The lyrics really help paint the picture. It's one of the records that I feel from this band, perhaps more than any other, where the lyrical content ties in perfectly with the sound and the atmosphere behind the sound, and even with the vocal performance and the dynamic between the vocals. I think they do it better than any other album on this one. It just feels like all the pieces really fit well together, and they didn't have to be forced together as one. The guitars sound phenomenal. They have great texture, great impact on this album, on the heavier side, on the more black metal side, on how driven some of the songs are, the solos, the melodies, the atmosphere, the melancholy. The guitars are a little bit of the chef. There's a lot of different ingredients, but the chef is the one that makes the recipe and makes the final dish. And the guitars, to me, kind of felt like that. Was all of it inclusive. Was the dish, the recipe, the chef, and the ingredients all in one. The drums on this album feel full. They give the album really a sense of having not just volume, but having substance within that volume. And for an album that has a lot of ebbs and flows, and for an album that sometimes goes through stretches of very melodic and melancholic sound experience, and even atmospheric elements that add to that same sound experience, having a little bit of a more full drum sound impacts positively on the record, on the sound, on how you perceive the album. It puts a little bit more meat on the bone. It makes the record feel a little bit more substantial without making the record feel extremely big. It's not cinematic, it doesn't have a huge volume, but it has enough in order to give some oomph to really help the songs that are a little bit more stripped down, that feel a little bit more melancholic. Those needed more than the aggressive songs, but if you're going to create some more driven black metal style tracks, you also need the drums to have that same experience in order to emphasize those elements. So it's an element that works on both spectrums of this record. Vocally, very dynamic, but the two vocal styles, the two deliveries, the harsh vocals, the clean vocals, really work well as one. It really feels more as one because they feed off of one another. One sets up the other, one complements the other, and there's this almost this duet style that the record has, where you feel like they're just tag teaming the whole time. And it's so important to have that fluid dynamic, because the two styles are very different. They're worlds apart, if you will. But the way they were recorded, the way they were put together on these tracks, they feel like a continuation of one becomes the next. It's really a Jekyll and Hyde, but at the end, Jekyll and Hyde is the same person. So the two vocal styles, while being two different vocalists with two very different deliveries, the way they were put together on this record, they don't feel like that. It feels like it's all coming from one single mind, one single delivery. I really enjoy that. It added incredible quality to the way this album comes across, which, in my humble opinion, I'm not going to say this is their best record to date. They have 12 albums, including this one, but I think this is one of their best. I honestly feel like this is an album that's going to work really well with their fan base, but it's also an album that's going to open doors, that's going to be a gateway for new fans to come in, discover the band, and then perhaps go back and enjoy their old discography. Because of that, it has a much larger appeal than any of their previous records, even True North. I think this album just touches a lot more people because it has that simplified aspect that's very inclusive, that really brings the listeners in. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Moon. Great sonic boom as the song opens, and then the vocals come in to bring a sense of calm. Those clean vocals really calm the track down. It's like throwing some water on the fire. This creates more of a little bit of a melodic, melancholic current, and then you have exceptional guitar work on this track. The guitars infuse both melody and melancholy with explosiveness. There's really explosive moments in this track. It's like your car is backfiring every so often, and that is the guitars coming in and really infusing these jolts into the track. It allows you to feel like the song allows you the sense of calm weather with stormy moments in between. There's these moments of ruggedness, if you will, in the sound that makes the track come to life, that doesn't allow the song to become stagnant. And this is important for me. The clean vocals all around in this track are absolutely haunting. Next we have Unraveling, a very dynamic track musically, and sound-wise you feel really connected with the experience. This song really connects everything extremely well. The combination of both styles of vocals works extremely well in this track. One helps set up the other, creating a great combination. On this song they almost become theatrical to one sense. It's almost like you're having a conversation between two antagonizing characters in a single story, and that dynamic really comes across clearly in this track. Musically, very powerful song, mixing the heaviness with these more clear moments. A very driven track, very dynamic, great guitar sound once again throughout the entire track. And then the last third of the song, musically, it really opens up. I like the dynamics of the vocals. You keep those same dynamics happening from beginning to end, but musically the song feels a little bit more open, like it breathes a little bit better. There's more air coming in as it closes. Last but not least, this is my favorite song on the entire album, The Wild Lingers. This track has great riffage. It's just majestic. The guitar sound, the execution, the riffs really stand out for me as one of the key elements of the song. The chorus is super layered, very textured, with this really thin orchestrational layer built into the sound that just makes that specific chorus feel massive. It just feels very explosive. It feels big. It has volume. It has substance. It has so many freaking layers in it. When you're listening to the chorus, for as catchy as it is, I'm trying to digest, I'm trying to peel the layers to see how they got to it. What did they add here? Like, how does it sound so big, so complex, but at the same time so hooky, so catchy, which normally is associated with simplicity? They did it extremely well in this chorus, perhaps one of the best of the entire record because of this specific dynamic. Great track all around, but that chorus is what allows this song to really stand out. This is it, Borknagar with Fall, out February 23rd on Century Media Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section, and I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.